The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Well, good morning, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to the ATRA webinar series. Today's subject is going to be Chrysler reprogramming. A couple little tidbits. First off, again, we'd like to thank the folks from Seal Aftermarket Products for sponsoring our webinar today. Let's do a little bit of housekeeping itself before we get started. If you need to talk Okay, hopefully everybody's back online here again. Hopefully our sound's hooked up again, and we're going. So I'll move on. Again, if you guys see me move on, obviously let me know if we've got sound or not. I'm hoping everybody does have sound. On my end, it shows that we do, so again, hopefully we do. Appreciate you guys giving me a little feedback on that. All right, so again, if you got a question as we're going through this stuff today, it looks like everybody's pretty well found the questions box already. Feel free to obviously ask your questions as we're going through this. Simply pop it in the questions box, hit the submit key, and send it over to me, and I'll try to answer your questions as we go through this. There's a survey that's going to be following our presentation today. Again, appreciate your feedback on the survey. Sorry we had a little snafu here on the sound system itself. Not sure exactly what went on with that, but wonders of modern technology here. So with that said, let's take a look at a little bit of programming stuff here. Last week I spent the week in Detroit, and one of the places I visited was a place called Drew Technologies. They are an OE supplier as well as the main aftermarket supplier for the tools that do reprogramming. And they, of course, have helped me as we've gone through and done the programming webinars. So again, I'd like to thank those guys personally for giving us a hand, because it's certainly obviously a big asset to have a company like that supporting us in trying to get this webinar information out when it comes to reprogramming. I will be following up, obviously, this webinar itself at a later date, looks like around January or so, with a Ford reprogramming class, as well as a Honda and Toyota reprogramming class next year along that with that too. So you're going to get a lot of chances to obviously deal with programming as we go through this. So again, hopefully everybody will enjoy our presentation here today, and we'll get a chance to take a look at the programming process. So what you got popping up on your screen right now is the actual process that's used. It's known as an SAE standard J2534. SAE, of course, stands for Society of Automotive Engineers. They developed the standards for the actual reprogramming process. The J2534 standard, there are several of those standards that are out there. The first standard that was developed was the J2534-1 standard. That allowed you to do engine and transmission reprogramming. The -2 standard was to allow you to do additional things outside of the engine and transmission. What basically happened, guys, was the OEs realized that there was a need to be able to program devices other than simply the engine controller or transmission controller. And the reason for that is because obviously a lot of components that deal with the transmission are also needing to be reprogrammed, like body control modules and so forth. So that -2 standard actually allowed you to do programming outside of the normal programming process. Along with that, the other thing that the -2 standard did for you was it allowed you to do scan tool interface on certain vehicles. An example, Toyotas and GMs, you can actually use this pass-through device along with a program you download on your laptop to actually act as a factory-level scan tool. So really a neat process when we're dealing with this J2534-2. When you get in the mode of buying a piece of equipment, you're definitely going to want to look at getting the -2 tool, not the -1 tool. So that's a question you need to be asking whoever your tool supplier is. Are you -2 compatible? If you are, then that'd be the piece of equipment you're going to want to obviously consider purchasing. If you're not, then obviously you're not going to want to consider purchasing that because it's only going to do engine and transmission functions. Now, the -3 standard that you guys see there, that -3 standard's job is to develop a standard for testing of the tools themselves. We're having a lot of issues with offshore products coming in. People are buying stuff off of eBay and so forth, and the products just flat do not work. And so the -3 standard is a standard that everybody meets to basically prove that their equipment functions the way it's supposed to. So again, when you're buying a piece of equipment, you're going to want to make sure it follows these J2534 standards. When we're talking about actually doing the reprogramming, fairly simple process. We're going to go out to the factory website, whoever that factory is. In this instance, happens to be a Chrysler Tech Authority. We're going to download the software that we need for the vehicle from that Tech Authority website onto our laptop or our, obviously, PDA or our PC, and then we're going to upload it via this J2534 device into the vehicle controller that we're trying to do the reprogramming with. So the process itself is fairly simple. There's not a bunch of razzle-dazzle to it. It's simply hooking to the website of the manufacturer, having your tool hooked up, and then loading that software from your PC directly into the vehicle itself. That's why they call it pass-through, because it's passing through your particular PC. Now, there are 3 different versions of reprogramming that are in the industry. One is direct reprogramming, which we're not doing. That's typically a dealer level reprogramming. Number 2 is remote or off-board programming. Remote and off-board programming itself is something that some guys like to do, especially in the transmission end of it, because it allows you, when you replace a controller, to simply basically program that controller right on the bench. The third mode of programming is called pass-through. It is by far the most common of the programming processes. In fact, a lot of the OEs are now adopting the pass-through process. They're moving from direct programming into pass-through programming. And that's when we're going to be using this J2534 device itself to actually pass it from our PC directly into the controller, which is located in the vehicle. So the difference between the remote programming and the pass-through is remote, you have to have the controller out of the car in order to do this. Pass-through means the controller is still in the car and you're simply passing it through into that vehicle. So the fundamental process we're going to be following, fairly simple. Again, a laptop, PC, PDA, hardwired into the internet itself is going to basically go in and grab the program from their server, take it through that PC, through your device that you have purchased, and into the car. These are the typical devices you will see. These happen to be Drew Technologies devices. This is the Cardac Plus that I'm going to be using here today, the one on top. As you can see, they build for a number of different manufacturers out there. Some of the tools actually look different than this. Some of them are simply a piece of cable with a little adapter that plugs into your DLC on the end. So no matter what you've bought, the bottom line is it needs to be J2534 compliant. Along with that, when you buy that piece of equipment, one of the things you're going to notice is you typically get either a CD with it or you get a website that you can gain access to. It's really important you do this as soon as you get the tool, because sure as can be, guys will forget to do this uploading of this software for their tool onto their PC, and their tool will not function. So in order to enable your tool on your PC, you've got to load the software that whoever's company that you bought provided for you, or obviously go to their website and get a download for your PC to basically enable that functionality of that tool itself. So again, if you do not have that software loaded, your tool will not work. Give you some basic precautions right here when it comes to doing programming. These follow through for any type of programming process you're going to do, whether we're talking GMs, Fords, Toyotas, Hondas. Basically, it's the processes and precautions that you're going to follow. Make sure you got a hardwired internet connection. Even though some companies will tell you can do this Bluetooth and wireless and so forth, we've had lots of troubles with this. Make sure you're hardwired to your connection. You're going to need a battery maintainer or a jump box or another battery you've got hooked in parallel, something to maintain battery voltage on this vehicle. If battery voltage drops too low, you can end up obviously with a damaged controller on some applications. So you want to make certain that you have battery voltage maintained at about 12.5 volts or greater as you're going through the reprogramming process. Make sure your operating system on your PC is compatible with your equipment and with the vehicle. I'm going to give you a website here in a minute that you're going to want to write down. It's a Chrysler website, pretty cool little website. It doesn't cost you any money to go into it. It's going to give you some specific information that you need to know about before you purchase equipment. You need to turn off, obviously, all of the antivirus software, firewall, pop-up blockers, the basic stuff that you do to protect your PC. You need to turn that off so that these programs will function. Next bullet down talks about cycling your keys, starting the engine, and so forth. You don't do anything, guys, unless it tells you to on the screen. If it tells you to do something on the screen, you do that. If it doesn't tell you to do it, don't do it. That's usually where guys get into trouble. After you're done reprogramming, either an ECM or TCM, you're going to have to go through and physically relearn the adapts and things like idle learn and a few other little instances on the vehicles themselves. Because again, this is just exactly like replacing a controller. If you're replacing a controller, you got to go through and relearn those things. So if you're reprogramming it, the same thing holds true. Make sure all your accessories are turned off. Again, can't overemphasize that, how important that is. Because again, we do not want that battery voltage to change on us. So we've got to maintain our battery voltage all the time. Don't be running any of their applications when you're actually doing programming other than the programming application. So in other words, you shouldn't be searching eBay and obviously playing games in your computer and looking up service information on the computer. It has to be dedicated to doing this job when it's doing this job. Last but not least, one kind of applies to some of the Asian vehicles, not a big thing on Chryslers, but I put it in here anyway because, again, we want to be consistent across the board for everything we do. So when you're doing a reprogramming, make sure you set the emergency brake. This is going to be the Chrysler website you guys are going to see. It is at www.techauthority.com. The neat thing about this website, guys, is this. When you go in and you sign up, because you're going to have to subscribe to this, you're not just subscribing to reprogramming. On the Chrysler system, you're subscribing for reprogramming, you're subscribing for, obviously, going into shop manual information, you're subscribing for looking at TSBs and so forth. So an awful lot of different things you have the capabilities of doing with the Chrysler system itself. So you're going to have to go in and sign up for the subscription prior to going in to do the programming process. I've already signed up for the subscription, so that's what you're going to see as we move through this, is that I've actually signed up for the subscription and we'll be skipping over the actual sign-up process per se. The other thing you need to know about this website, as you can see, I put another website on there. It's kb.dcctools.com. If you run across this website or you want to search this website, it's going to give you some very vital information when it comes to looking for details about programming. This website will give you the specifications that your tools and equipment have to meet to be able to do reprogramming. It's also going to give you things such as bulletins, information that responds to reprogramming issues that Chrysler is having. So if you had a Voyager, for example, that wouldn't program right, there are bulletins in there, which are basically technical assistance cases that you can look at to see how they resolve the issue. So an awful lot of nice, important information is in there. Easy use, easy access to it. Simply search that website. Now, what we're going to do here is we're going to go in and start the programming process. About 50% of what I'm going to show you only has to be done the first time you do a Chrysler system. After that, you'll be able to skip over a bunch of this stuff we're going to do here at the beginning. So what I'm doing is I'm clicking on the sign-in box. I've already signed up for a 3-day subscription. It was $35. I'm going to put my, obviously, information in. As you can see, I got a user ID I got to put in, and I got a password I got to put in. And then I'm going to simply hit the login button, which is what you're seeing me hit on the screen. Once I hit that login button, it's logged me in as understanding that, yes, I am legitimate to be able to use the Chrysler system. And now I go back to this page that I was at before and click the Start Here button. Once I click that button, the next thing you're going to see pop up is going to be this web page right here. This gives you some application requirements, tells you what kind of modules that you can actually reprogram, gives you some links that you can actually go to. We're going to actually go to one of those links right now. That's the flash link that you see me highlighted over here on the left-hand side of the page. So I click on the flash link. That flash link will give you detailed information about what it is you need to be able to do reprogramming. So it gives you the setup process you got to go through, the one-time process, your PC requirements so you know that everything's going to work right, and of course what the different Chrysler systems are that they have available to you out there. Now, the one thing I will tell you is Chrysler has 2 different websites available, or 2 different systems. One is what they call their legacy system. That's for 2009 and earlier vehicles. And one is for their new vehicles, model year 2010 and later. So the bottom line, guys, is we're going to be doing a 2004 truck, so we're going to actually use the legacy system since that's the most common one that you guys will use. The next page, as you click forward on it, will move you into a picture that you can see on the left-hand side showing you the new system for 2010 and later vehicles, and showing you the legacy system on the right-hand side of the picture for 2009 and earlier vehicles. Basically gives you how this thing works. Now, we talked about loading software on your PC when we first talked about this thing here a little bit earlier. I told you need to make sure that whatever tool you purchased, that you loaded their software onto your PC so your tool will work. Well, Chrysler also requires that you load their software onto your PC so their system can interface with your PC or laptop. We're going to do that by clicking this button that says Get the J2534 System Download. So I'm going to click on that button, and it's now going to show you that we're actually downloading our software. So the software that Chrysler has is now being downloaded onto my PC. Once that screen goes away, another screen is going to automatically pop up. This is the screen that you're going to get, and it's going to be basically asking you to load some Java software. And most of you guys have loaded Java software before. So again, nothing unusual or strange here. We're going to click the button that says Get the J2534 Install J4.04.20 executable file. Once we click on that, then another screen is going to automatically pop up once it's there, and we're going to save that to our PC. So just like you would for loading some Microsoft software, you simply go through, after it's loaded, you hit the Save button, and that will take you automatically to the next screen itself. And it's going to ask us, where do we want to save this to? Well, where I would choose to save it to is to the desktop. And the reason I would choose to save it to the desktop is because it's going to make an icon for us when we do the save function. And that icon will allow me to simply click on that the next time I need to do reprogramming. It will take me directly into the reprogramming features. So I'm clicking on the Save button. You're seeing now that the system is updating. It's downloading that software. You can see on the right-hand little picture I put in there, that's showing the icon that's now popped up onto my desktop. At this point, just like, again, any other software you're going to deal with, you would simply click the Run button to activate that software. So if you click Close now, the software is not going to activate, and you're going to think you got to go back to reload the software. So make sure you click Run at this point. You're going to get an Install Shield wizard that pops up just like other software programs have. You simply follow the buttons, follow the process. So we're going to hit the Next button here. It's going to give me some instructions that are going to pop up. As those instructions pop up, I read the instructions to make sure those instructions make sense to me, and this is really what I want to do. At that point, I hit the Next button, and it's going to take me to a licensing agreement. And that licensing agreement is no different than what you for vehicle manufacturers for getting their software, or most software that you load has some sort of licensing agreement that you have to agree to. So we're going to hit the little radio button there on the left-hand side. That's the left-hand blue arrow. And, of course, we're going to then touch the next arrow, which is the down arrow there in the middle. At that point, it's saying, okay, we're ready to go. We're ready to load your software. So we now hit the Install button to load the software onto our PC. So as you can see here, it is loading the software for us. So that software that we obviously needed to get the Chrysler system to function on our PC or laptop, we're now physically loading that software onto our PC itself. When it's all said and done, this Install a Shield picture is going to pop up. And again, you're going to say that, yes, it's done what it's supposed to do, so we're now ready to finish that software load. So I'm going to click the Finish button. And now we have got the software installed onto our PC. So this whole process I took you through will be your first time process that you have to go through in order to get the information off of the server that Chrysler has it onto your PC so that you can actually use it for programming. Once you've done that process, you don't have to go back over and over again unless there's an update to the files. And if that's the case, the website will actually tell you that. So again, it's a one-time deal. At this point, we're ready to go out. We're ready to find some software. We want to load it on our vehicle. So Chrysler makes this fairly simple. We're going to click on the support feature right here. So I'm clicking the Here button. It's going to ask me, okay, how do I want to look that software up? There are 4 choices you have with the Chrysler system. You can do it based on VIN code, and this is by far the best way to do it. It keeps you from having errors. So VIN code is the way that I would recommend you do it. If you choose not to use the VIN code, then you can look it up by year, model, and engine. You can also look it up by part number. So obviously, if somebody has given you a part number for an updated calibration, you can physically look that up based on the part number. You can also look up TSBs. You can look up a TSB itself, put a TSB number in so that you can get the part number obviously off of that TSB. So lots of different choices. We're going to use the toughest one to use. That is going to be using the year, the model, and the engine. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to use the pull-down menu. As you can see, I poked in a 2004 Dodge Ram 3500 truck with a 5.3 Cummins in it. So that's what we're going to search for calibrations. So at this point, I'm going to hit the Submit key at the bottom of the screen. It's going to go out and it's going to look for that software. That big blue arrow point to the left shows you the vehicle that we had chosen that we wanted to look at the software on. The middle arrow, as you can see, is pointing to the different calibrations that are available for this vehicle application. This is where guys really struggle with this. If you do not use VIN code, then what it boils down to is that you can get multiple different calibrations that pop up. So bottom line is the VIN code process is by far the simplest process to follow. So if we look at what we've done here, we're pulling this up by VIN code. I'm going to have to get additional information in order to search it, obviously, like I'm searching it right here. So in this instance, I'm going to have to know which transmission it's got. I'm going to have to know whether it's federal emissions or California emissions. Lots of instances I ran into in this Chrysler system will ask you for options on the vehicle, so you have to know the sales codes of the different options on the vehicles because it's going to ask you for that. It'll say this sales code, ABC, this sales code, XYZ. Whatever the sales code is, it'll actually pop into this menu. That's the reason I recommend that you go with the VIN code, because it's going to ID it for you. Once it's loaded the software on your PC, so we clicked on it, we hit the download button. The next screen you're going to see happen here is it's going to, obviously on the bottom of your current screen, it's going to pop up and say the download was successfully moved over to your PC. So now your PC is storing that download for us. At this point, we're ready now to take it from the PC. We're ready to put it onto the vehicle. So I'm going to click on my icon that I had just made prior to now on the screen. That icon is going to pop up. It's going to open the file for me. At this point, we're interfacing with the Chrysler website and saying, okay, what kind of vehicle are you working with? This is a legacy system, or this is one of the new systems? So in this instance, I'm working with a legacy, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the 2009 and earlier vehicle application. So as I click on that vehicle application, as you can see, that screen has changed. Got a big red box down it that says Start Legacy Applications. So I'm going to simply click on that box because I got my tools and equipment all hooked up. And now it's going to say, are you going to want to do a pass-through process? It's asking me a question. So yes, this is the process we're using in the aftermarket, so I'm going to do Select Pass-Through. Now, remember I talked earlier about loading the software for your particular tool you bought onto your PC? This is what's loaded on my PC right here. So, as you can see, I'm going to have to choose which one I've got. If you pull this box up and there's nothing in here, you forgot to load the software for your tool. So that's the reason I told you to make sure you do it as soon as you get your tool. It's very, very important that you do that, that you follow that. So, let's say you bought the tool from Snap-on. That Snap-on software, when you loaded it, the first day you got the tool, it will pop that up on this screen, and we simply would then select Snap-on, Pass-Through Pro, hit the OK button. Well, I'm using Drew Technologies CARDAC Plus, so I've clicked on that button. I'm going to click the OK button here. So we've now identified the type of tool that we're going to be processing this update information through. At this point, we're going to hit the Start button. As I hit the Start button, it's going to now tell you that it's connecting to the device itself, and there's just hooking up to the module that you actually want to program. The next screen that's going to pop up will pop up automatically, and it's going to say, are you sure you want to load this particular part number software? Well, remember a couple screens ago we had to choose which software set we wanted to load? That's the part number for the software we chose. So of course this is the one I want to use because I chose it earlier. So I'm going to say yes to that. And at this point it's now going to start the programming process. So as you can see, there are going to be some steps that we're going to go through programming wise that are now going to pop up on the screen. Step 1 of 4, 2 of 4, 3 of 4. As you can also see on the bottom of the screen, you've got a bar code that's coming across the bottom of the screen that's showing you your status on each of the programming levels. We're in block 1 of 4 blocks, and it looks like we're about a quarter of the way done. Once those bars go all the way across and it moves from step to step, the next screen that's going to pop up for you is it's going to say Programming Complete. So if you look at the left-hand side of the page, it says Step 4 of 4. It says Reprogramming Completed. And it gives me below that the part number that we just now loaded for our software set. So again, what you're going to see is whatever program you had chosen has now been loaded into that ECM in this instance. At this point again, we're all done with the programming process, so I'm going to hit the exit button. And that will then obviously take us through and get us out of that screen. So let's chat for a second just about this whole programming thing and why this is so important to everybody. When I was back in Detroit this last week, one of the things I spent some time with was the people who are in charge of diagnostics for General Motors. I spent an afternoon with those guys. So all the engineering guys and the managers and so forth were in this meeting with me, and we chatted about where this whole thing is going. They give me an interesting statistic. They said that 50% of the money that they're spending on vehicles right now is going into software development and software diagnostics. So that means an awful lot of money is being poured into, obviously, software updates for vehicles. I was with the Chrysler folks. They had about 60 updates that they had for this last year just for software changes for their vehicles. So my point is, we're missing the boat if we're not doing software updates on vehicles. Now, the other thing I want to point to everybody is, pretty soon you're going to run out of time about not doing software programming. You're going to be forced into this box and be forced into actually doing software programming. I'll give you an example of this. The new GM 8-speed that's coming out here very shortly. One of the things you have to do is reprogram it for something as simple as changing solenoids in the vehicle. So when you change solenoids, you've got to be able to go up to the cloud, pull down the solenoid calibration number, and load that calibration into that vehicle. That's how sophisticated this stuff is getting. So guys have ran away from this programming thing. I'm not really sure why people have, but they are really avoiding this thing almost like the plague. As you guys have seen, this is not difficult to do. If you follow the precautions we're giving you, you buy a piece of equipment, and you go to the website, you sign up for it, it's pretty well a no-brainer here. You simply follow the process they give you on the screen. You're not going to have a lot of troubles with this. Like I said, it's a fairly simple process to do. It becomes a profit center for your shop. So I would encourage everybody to get on this bandwagon, because within another year or two, you won't have much choice but to get on the bandwagon, because both Ford and GM are going in this direction. As I told you earlier about reprogramming for multiple different things, including things like valve body replacements or solenoid replacements. So again, bottom line is that you need to get on the bandwagon as soon as you can. Question we just had popped up, it looks like it says, is it just recent that Chrysler started supporting Windows Vista? Yes, it is. In fact, if you went to that website, that DCC Tools website, it'll actually show you all of the different versions of Windows software that Chrysler obviously supports. So great question there. Well, guys, I hope you've enjoyed yourself today. I hope you do not feel intimidated by this. It is a very, very simple process to use, and I hope you go out there and actually start doing some programming. Once you jump into this, you'll find out it's not a big deal, and you'll wish you had done it years ago. So with that said, guys, I hope to see you at the next webinar, which is in 2 weeks. So again, I'll see you at the next webinar. Again, guys, thanks for your attention.